Hi, good afternoon. This is Natalie.
Hi, Natalie. Richard Webb. How are you?
Hi, Richard. I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. I was
Perfect.
just
Thanks so
enjoying
much
this elevator music, waiting on you.
Sorry. Yeah, I was having trouble logging into the toll-free number, so I just took the
So
one.
was I. I a little bit early, so was I. So I understand.
Perfect. You were more punctual than the German. That's a good thing. Alrighty. Okay, should I give you some background, maybe on two things? One, why the heck I'm doing these interviews, because I'm already working for a company that should know this, and two, what I'm trying to understand. On the first one, I just recently joined Danfoss, and I actually come from an IT background, and I'm sort of trying to use these interviews to for personal understanding, get a background, because the task I have in Danfoss is trying to understand or trying to get service innovation going, so trying to help the business units develop more services that cater to customer needs, instead of trying to be product driven, what they like to do, because they're an engineering company. So yeah, so I'm sort of trying to use the interviews to get an overall understanding of the processes in retailers, and how you're dealing with the equipment, and what from your view could be improved, and what that would implicate, and so forth and so on.
I understand completely.
Okay. And I understand you've been a former employee in Tesco, right? Or
Yeah, real briefly, I'll tell you, I retired as a senior vice president, which I ran a $5 billion segment of the company, which included Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, parts of Kansas. Before that, I was a vice president and had 30 warehouses in 8 different states located out of Chicago. I've built over 58 Costco's myself. I've done everything as a senior vice president, from real estate, construction, buying, distribution, operations. So I had complete control of my own little kingdom. So I'm pretty familiar with, pretty much almost everything at Costco.
That sounds good. Sounds like you have the full knowledge.
Yeah. Well, I cut the mullet off about 2001.
Very good. It's always good to at some point escape the corporate life. Alrighty. Do you want to maybe as a starter, sort of give me your view on the topic, or how you would, if you were me, would start into the topic? What are the processes that you had that you would have loved to change? Anything that we should kick it off on?
Well, the first thing you should take in consideration, and your attitude is right, you need to listen to what the retailers need instead of producing something and then trying to convince us that it will work. And so what is the biggest cost factor out there, especially when you're looking at a company like Costco Wholesale? And that is wages and benefits. You know that Costco is one of the highest payers of employee wages, and 93% of the employees are covered by insurance. And just to give you an idea, so a full-time person at Costco makes about $55,000 a year, and then you have to add on that another $20,000 to $25,000 in benefits. So the average cost per man hour at a Costco is about $23 to $24 per hour. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So what we're looking for and have implemented in small doses is these smart devices that can allow us to service our members. They're not called customers; they're members, because they are paying members, and reduce our labor. But at the same time, it's got to be great service, and it's got to work. So that's it in a nutshell. I can give you a couple of instances where it worked. I can give you a couple where it didn't.
Yeah.
But
okay.
But in today's world, you know, everybody's trying to get to, you know, how can you be more efficient and yet, you know, still have a personal touch and, but efficiency is going to lead everything. Efficiency and accuracy, you know, that's what's going to be the, you know, the leading thing that is going to drive this for you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Can you maybe give an example where you're thinking of where it worked or?
Yeah. So let's go back.
Or maybe where it worked. I don't care.
I'll give you an instance where it didn't work and then where it did. So I trust that you're familiar with Costco, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So early on, you know, everybody went to these self-checkouts, and we tried it about 8 years ago. And first of all, we weren't well educated. So, in other words, the manufacturer kind of sold us a bill of goods, and it didn't work. And why didn't it work? There were too many loopholes for members to, of course, steal. So you take a $120 bottle of wine, you stick a UPC on it, or you scan two $13 bottles of wine, and you know let me go back. You scan the $13 wine twice, and you put the 120 in. And what screwed us up there was believing that it was truly self-checkout and no employee was needed. And our pilferage or shrink went through the roof. And so we abandoned it. And it wasn't right for us. And so then a new concept came out, which was closer to what you see in like a Target or a QFC or a Kroger, something like that. And the sales pitch was a little bit different. And, of course, we learned this through trial and error. Nothing is self-checkout. And you cannot sell anything as self-checkout when you're talking about members handling their own product through the register. And the reason why is there's too much opportunity for shrink to go through your roof. And just to give you an idea that a shrink in Costco is like less than 2%. And the reason is because we have two-man teams that check you out. So you notice if you go through the register, one person is a cashier, the other person's handling it. But it is a check and balance where that one person tells him, "Did you get everything on the bottom? I'm going to handle this. I'm going to handle it." So that keeps our sweethearting down to nothing. So when we went into self-checkout the first time, we thought, oh, you just need an employee there like Kroger has and let everybody check themselves out. And then the shrink went like 3 times what it was.
Right.
And, okay, so the second time it came through, what we discovered, so in my own business there in Texas, and I've only been retired since May, we put in 8 self-checkouts in a cove, kind of like you see at a Target. And so 8 checkouts would require 16 employees if we was to do it. But we discovered that 4 to 5 employees can easily manage 8 self-checkouts. And so we were able to reduce our labor in half and still monitor this. So you got an employee that only has to watch 2 checkouts. It's easy for him to see that someone just scanned a bottle of Opus and then, put a bottle of Opus in there, and it didn't, it wasn't recorded. So what we learned is self-checkout isn't really self-checkout at the register, but what we did learn is we were able to reduce our employees down to half. So we got twice as much coverage with half the number of employees. So if you take the 4 employees and you multiply it times the $23 an hour, that's a substantial savings.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we had to understand that it's not okay. So we went from, we don't call it self-checkout anymore. We call it assisted checkout. So we use the member's labor to check it out, but we're still there as the second person of the 2-man team to make sure it's recorded right.
Yeah.
And then the other thing we did, we went to a different colored receipt so that the people at the door would recognize that this was not an employee checkout, but a self-checkout. So both of those things allowed us to figure out a system that
more
worked for us. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that was basically a 5 to 6 year learning curve. Complete failure, revamp, new system, came out, re-educated, now it works.
Okay.
It's not everywhere yet.
Yeah, and it's the thing, you can't really trust technology also on other processes, right? So.
And I think that's a problem in the industry is they come out and they want to tell you how you can trust it. And it's not the technology. It's the person using the technology that you can't trust.
Yeah, absolutely. I had another call with somebody that was telling me that they had a very terrible experience with sort of alarm monitoring on the fridges, where the provider said it was completely automated, and employees left doors open intentionally and stuff, and it was a complete disaster.
I think that's something that if you're going to be in this business, you're going to be selling this business. I think that's the first thing you come up with, that nothing is self-efficient. It's an assisted efficiency. And if you sell that, then you're not going to get a disappointed customer that goes, you told me this was self-sufficient. I didn't ever have to watch it. Well, that can't possibly be true.
Yep. Very good point. But would you, if somebody were to, so on our alarm management, just because I'm thinking of it right now, it is an operated call center plus technicians that go out. You would rather have a model where you have a technology solution that supports, but still humans on the ground that are able to intervene if something is wrong.
Yes, and I would, if you're in the monitoring system, I would leave a window there where you go, hey, we monitor 24/7, but we're going to give you an alarm, or we're going to give you something that, every so often we need you to just check to make sure everything works. And the operators, I can guarantee you this, have no problem being a partner with someone like you, or whether it's a monitoring of refrigeration or it's a monitoring of the building, where they have a responsibility to make sure that you're getting the information that you need and that the system works.
Yeah, exactly. How did that work with you? Did you have a external company monitoring building and equipment, or?
We have everything. We have automatic, refrigeration alarms, and of course, the building is totally secure and things like that. But what works best for us is that we know that we have a responsibility to make sure that everything is working for you and then for us as well.
What do you mean by that? So that there's a collaboration between the store managers with the operators, or how do you do it?
Well, like that, there is a communication between the company doing the monitoring and warehouse management, even if it's just once a day, that, hey, we're checking to make sure everything, will you check to make sure the panel, I think there has to be cooperation between both parties, because nothing is worse than you think everything's working, the manager thinks everything's working, and something's not working. And then there's product loss, or there's a break-in, or like self-checkout, there's a loophole that no one looked at, those kind of things. I don't think you can sell a product to someone and tell them, you don't need to ever look at this, we're going to monitor everything for you. I don't think that that's ever going to work.
No. But was that a problem with you, for example, that you had food loss because the provider that did the service failed in instances or something, or?
Yes, that's happened. That has happened in the past, where alarm didn't work. It looked like it worked. Everybody thought that it worked, and then you come in the morning and it's not. It didn't come back on after a defrost cycle, or there was a loss of freon, or something that didn't work in the monitoring system. Now, those aren't very often, but they have happened.
But sorry, I'm trying. I'm just asking stupid questions because I have absolutely no.
No, you're not.
So I'm just wondering how it usually works when you engage with these sort of companies, right? So who in the store is dealing with them, and is there somebody more centrally that also has a look, or is it completely outsourced, or how does it work?
Okay, so in a Costco, you have a general manager that's in charge of everything, and then he has a minimum of 3 assistants. And one of the assistants is over merchandising, the other one's over administrative, another one's over ancillary businesses. And ancillary B, he runs the pharmacy, he runs the optical, he runs hearing aid. But let's go back to the admin manager. The admin manager is responsible for bill paying, which includes paying you, but he's also responsibility is the facility. So the maintenance of the facility, which includes everything from landscaping to roof maintenance to refrigeration, all falls under the admin manager, assistant manager. And he has a manager under him. So he's assistant over admin, and then he has an admin manager. So there's 2 individuals that are responsible in a Costco for the building maintenance and responsibility for all the equipment.
Okay, and he would then be in touch. So if the alarm company really had something that went wrong, they would call him and tell him that something is wrong.
Right. And so what are some of the things that go wrong? Okay, I told you I was in Louisiana, Texas, and Oklahoma. There's volatile weather there. You know about Katrina, you know about Ike. You've got power failures from storms, and that's when, everybody thinks after a power failure, everything looks like it comes back on. But sometimes that's what disconnected some of these systems, where maybe they look like they're on, but maybe something's fried inside that doesn't tell you there's a freon leak. But it was always after some sort of, tornado goes through Oklahoma, always some sort of disruption in power that typically cause, these losses.
Yeah, because it's not so much an everyday business that, I don't know, a case just fails or something.
Right, absolutely. So you're going flying through there, and everything's going fine, and a storm comes through, and storm blows over, and everything seems fine again. But there are so many things in your own system, or whatever system you're going to represent, that sometimes it looks like it's on, but yet something is not, came back on or recycled or rebooted or whatever, that gives you a false reading.
But does somebody check on them in the store regularly, or?
Right, but like I said, they need, it always has to be a support where you're in contact with them, or we run through something. Something has to be set up that we have a relationship, that we know after these items, these, whether things have happened, or someone's knocked over a power pole by hitting it with a car, that these things are back online, they're running at 100%, and that relationship, you can't trust your system after something like this has happened, that we can just, assume that everything's working.
Yeah, no, absolutely understood. I was just wondering how you, not so much, for once I wasn't asking for myself, I was just wondering how it currently works, right? So you already have a provider, but if you wouldn't have a provider, or however you want to put it, right? But is somebody actively checking right now, spending time on looking at the cases, or only on demand, or?
So we have a building check where the person goes through and looks at every refrigerated case and records the temperature. So yes, we do have that.
Okay, so that's because you legally have to register the temperatures, right?
Yeah, for food safety purposes, yes.
Yeah. Okay, but you would do it anyways to make sure that everything is working?
Yeah, yeah, right. We would do it anyway to make sure everything's working.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because that was something the guys here had asked me if it wouldn't make sense to sort of automate that process, to have automated temperature registers.
No, that would not. You put too much trust in it, and something would go wrong.
Mm.
And I think at the end of the day, providers are going to get more and more important to the retailers, because these systems are so complicated, and we don't have educated people in our buildings about what you provide. In other words, all they can do is monitor. They don't know the complexity of your system. They don't know why it works. All we have is, and we can't put the responsibility on the employee to understand it all. All we can do is monitor what you provide, and what you provide is going to become more and more important as we go on.
Mm. Okay. But then it's not so much the checking that you would, or the seeing if it works, because that you have to do manually anyways. But is there other parts of running equipment, like cooling equipment or heating or lighting or whatever, where you say if somebody was to come and try to optimize the energy costs, or try to come and do like asset uptime, try to make sure that it doesn't fail, not so much in alarm cases, but generally looking at improving performance of the equipment.
Okay, so that's a very good question. So I'm looking at a P&L, and so I told you what's the biggest expense, and the biggest expense is salaries and benefits. The second biggest expense, which a manager cannot control, is utilities.
Mm.
So when you look at a giant Costco, 150,000 square feet, what's his two biggest expenses? Wages, benefits, and then right underneath it is utilities. So yeah, anything that you can bring that makes us greener, makes us more, eco-friendly, reduces that line right there, is something that the manager really can't control without a provider.
Well, okay, but is that a market that already a lot of providers are in? So did you have a partner for that already took care of it, or is that sort of a thing that everybody Because that's my feeling, that everybody at least advertises on it, and I'm wondering how much actually is already being implemented.
Well, Costco prides itself on not really being in bed with anybody, although there are people we're probably in bed with. And well, you know how it works. It's a good old boy network. Sometimes, you say you're not in bed with people, and then it turns out you are. But I think that, we're going global. We're going into China. We just went into Spain. We're going into France. And anything that can save us money, I know that our people are listening to. And the reason why, this is a penny business. And, at the end of the day, we have to we cannot allow, wages are always going to go up. We know that. And benefits are going through the roof. And everybody knows that. So we have to look at other ways to save. And where are you going to, anything that you can bring, I think you're going to find open ears to.
Mm-hmm. But that would then be, so if I'm getting you right, then the sort of saving discussion is the one you would have with someone like you, like a vice president or a general manager of a store, or.
Yes, efficiency, security, and what I mean by security that, hey, we're really going to make sure that you don't have these failures, and then cost savings is the biggest thing in a Costco.
Yeah, understandable in terms of costs there are. So yeah. Okay. Did you already see any providers that try to offer something like the stuff we just discussed to you that you liked? Somebody that you maybe worked with? Just trying to learn.
I know.
Maybe do something cool.
None come to mind. We've had some failures, and we've had some success. We're getting better at success than we are. We don't repeat our failures. No names come to mind right now. I didn't know I was going to be asked that. I would have looked up who some of the providers used to be, but because I'm like the pilot that's at 36,000 feet. I know the charges. I know what the expenses are. I don't know every provider that Costco, each one uses on these things.
Yeah, of course.
No, I just know that that we're a penny business. We're always looking at trying to save. That utilities are going to go up. We've got to figure out, if we're going to be here in another 25 years, how we're going to control these costs. And there's a lot of geniuses out there that are going to help.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
But then maybe let me ask you a couple other ones. There's another one I was wondering about is if you talk energy efficiencies, or if you talk like safety or making it run smoother, you basically have two options, right? You either go with a more niche, really really advanced guys in one area, or you try to find people that do as much as possible out of one hand, right? So trying to find somebody that does cooling, lighting, heating, all from one provider, or or more of a specialist.
No, I mean, I think there's room for both, but the more service you provide is of course, going to be a cost saving for you and a cost savings for us. But you mentioned safety. Are you guys involved in safety?
Depends on the definition. So more on asset reliability. We're trying to see that everything doesn't break down. Or
okay.
on lighting so that that you can control at night the lights, that it looks like somebody's in and stuff like that, but not really majorly.
Okay. Because one of the things that another cost, and actually this is something I save the company a lot of money on, is we were having a lot of forklift accidents. And how did I eliminate
sorry, I missed that. What was it?
Like a forklift accident? In other words, forklifts. Okay, so we use forklifts in the building. And
forklifts, all of these things that move.
Can move freight around.
Yeah.
And they're 6 to 12, and it became a problem. And how I solved it in Texas, or helped solve it, is reduce the stupid speed by 25%. Because, so this is some of the things that maybe you can apply this to lighting, whatever, is you're right. You don't need 25% lighting at night. Maybe you need 15, but the savings in that 10% is a lot. So I reduced our EPGs, which is a motorized pallet jack, and the forklifts to 25%, because every forklift driver gets on them, goes at full speed. So, but those are kind of things that, and maybe that applies to refrigeration. If no one's opening your, and I'm just giving you ideas, I'm thinking, if nobody's opening your freezer doors at night, okay, why do you have to run them with the same power that you do during the day when it's 75 to 100 degrees outside in some markets and people open all day? I mean, that's maybe something that you can come up with. It's the same thing with the cooler. Why do we have to run the coolers? Do you know how cold the freezer is in the morning when you open it at 4 in the morning? It's ridiculous. Yep. But that is something that, that you might look at and just talk well of me when you do. But I've always wondered, why do we run the same power at night in these freezer coolers? And I'm talking about even in the back room meat coolers, even in the back room produce coolers. Mm-hmm. Why does the temperature blow the same if no one's opening the door?
Yep. No, exactly. And that's one of the things, and that's one of the parts of the energy efficiency thing that some of the guys that are really smart in thermodynamics here are trying to come up with and have already started doing, so that you basically always keep it at optimal temperature. So you always keep the hazard temperature, that you never go way over, because somebody told me it's like 30% of the cases are overcooled. They're very rarely undercooled, because then you run the risk of losing food, but they're very often super overcooled, so that they're at least a couple degrees under what they need to be, and then you save a bunch of energy when you just keep them optimal and monitor that they're run optimal.
And Costco is a prime target for this, for you, because we don't work between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. And even if you reduce the cooling in those between 12 and 3, can you imagine? So that's about 20% of the day, or let's even say that's 10% of the day, whatever it is, times 500 buildings.
Yep.
I mean, that's a huge savings. And, and all you need to do is go and say, we know your utility bills are high, but, I mean, if I was running your business, that would be the first place I would start.
Yeah, tangible costs, right? Because
you could test it in a market like Hawaii, or a market like Texas, and say, listen, you guys run these things, and I mean, I could just see the savings myself already.
Yeah, well, that's good. That is so tangible. Yeah. I thought it was a little theoretical, but yeah, you're right. It's really tangible. Yep.
I get a bonus for that, don't I?
Sorry? Yeah, you do.
I get a bonus for that, don't I?
You get my full gratitude for that. The other things, so that's daily operations, right? And I think that's the biggest one. A couple other things, just in brainstorming when I thought about it, was how often do you guys actually like have to change installations on these type of things and reconfigure what sort of food is in which case and stuff like that? Does that happen, or is it more stationary that the things are where they are?
Costco in our refrigerated type businesses, it's not like the sales floor where things move around. You know, they may move something out to an end cap, like for instance, at the holidays, you know, you may bring up butter that everybody uses and pie crust. But to do wholesale changes in the freezer, cooler, and meat cases, that doesn't happen a great deal, you know.
Okay.
And the reason is because, you know, it's a penny business. We like to touch it one time and leave it alone. And, you know, we were all well educated years ago on food safety. And every time you do something like that and have something out of refrigeration, the life of that product goes down and the quality of that product goes down. So you don't get as much movement in those cases as you do throughout the rest of the warehouse.
Yeah, true. Okay. But did you have somebody in the store that, because you said that it was the assistant manager, the admin guy, that makes sure that everything is running in the building, but is there anybody dedicated that takes care of like the technology behind it? So I know we, for example, have a system manager gateway thing that is installed in the store that sends all the signals and stuff, or is that the admin person that just always calls a technician?
Yeah, the admin assistant manager and the admin manager under him are responsible for all that.
Okay, so they mostly operate with partners then, I would assume.
Yes, yeah, they would have an employee that they would assign, hey, I need you to go do this checklist, and but they're responsible. That's where it ends.
Okay. All right. Okay. But was that an expense you were aware of, how much you spend on like partners that would do something like that, like technicians coming in and regular checkups and whatnot that had to be done?
Yeah, so you know, our partners fall under a couple of categories, and it all depends on how the warehouse manager bills it. Like, he has a services, which usually covers all of our providers. And just to give you an example, our providers, so, and this includes landscaping provider, and of course you as a provider, and laundry as a provider, it is 1/4 of the cost of his utilities.
Okay.
So you can see that it pays off if a provider can help you get that line down, because our providers are 1/4 the cost of what we're spending in utilities.
Okay, but that would include all the partners, right? So
yeah,
maybe,
that would include all
the technical guys that take care of like the cooling, heating, whatever. That's like a fraction of that then, right?
Right, and let's just say if you took all of his categories, so where the other providers might fall, or if you had to come in and do something. So he has a maintenance account, he has a service account, he has an equipment account. If you took all of those accounts together, they're still slightly under the total bill of utilities. And I'm talking about maintenance of the whole building. So if he went out and he changed light bulbs, or he went out and they're still, all 4 of those categories are still less than utilities.
Okay. So then you said
that tells you how big the utility bills are in a big Costco.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. But within utilities, so that's basically electricity, gas, and all of that, and then the partners. Anything else in there?
Nope. It's just utilities, gas, and water. That's it.
Okay.
then the providers are charged off in that.
Crazy. Okay. And do you have any from corporate side? So from the central management, anything that they offered you, like services that you can then use, or did you go out yourself and find these partners and?
Typically, corporate helps you with these partners. Yes.
Okay.
So you would have to start there.
Okay, so that's why I'm asking. So if you were to find an alarm management company, you would ask corporate who are we using, who's our preferred.
Yes, but they're not all the same in every region. So in other words, I could have somebody different than the guys in Los Angeles. That usually happens. So, I mean, there's opportunity for you to sell something. What area are you in? What area of the country?
We have the operating center in Baltimore.
Okay.
But we have partners throughout the country. So.
Okay. Well, you just might pick an area that you know that you can show the most effect, and maybe your most effect is going to be in a very hot climate like Arizona, or a very hot climate like Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And pick that you want to be a provider there to show that you can bring some savings in this area.
Okay. But you don't see the business too, so if somebody was to come in and propose such a solution, then it's not something where you say, okay, they're super already locked into one provider and there's no chance at all to change it.
I do not think that there's anybody in our company that is not looking to save wherever they can. I mean, why am I retired? I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a multimillionaire. Why am I a multimillionaire? Because I got a lot of Costco stock. At the end of the day, everybody's focus. You might run into one or two, but most of the focus is on driving the price of the stock up. How do you make the price of the stock go up? Is you have to improve year over year. And how do you do that? You got to hold your SG&A, which utilities is a part of, down. And you cannot grow SG&A at the same rate you're growing sales, or that is a formula for business failure eventually.
Yeah.
And what has made Costco, is that we are a very efficient business. And, if you took and said, Costco does, let's use an easy number like $200 billion a year. If you saved us 1.001, that's a lot of money.
True. Yeah.
And that's the way you got to go in and sell it. Is that it's savings that we can't get on our own.
Yeah, well, that's good. So there's basically only these two levers that you can control, right? So it's personal costs and it's utilities.
Absolutely.
Okay. Since we are at pricing or at costs, I was just wondering, in terms of how you buy these sort of services, is there any political or investment reason that it's preferred to do it on a subscription basis or CapEx, or any preference there that you could see that somebody would prefer? Or
well, we won't use, when you say CapEx, that's to me is depreciation over 5 years, and we won't do that. We only do that, and the reason why is, if you know the Enron story, that's how they boosted the price of their stock, taking everyday expenses like telephone and utilities and CapEx in them, and that's not really the right thing to do. These are everyday expenses that need to be expensed in the period in which they're used. And so we would never CapEx it. It's going to have to fit into the existing formula. So CapEx would not be one.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but that's good. But would it be more of a like a subscription that you would be looking for, or more like a annual, here's your fixed price sort of?
It would probably be an annual or a per period basis. You would do the annual. We would break it down. Don't worry about how we break it down. You just need to bring your best cost, and we'll break it down to what fits in our system.
Okay, so you're doing quality or?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. It's actually a common thing across the US, I think. Yeah. And yeah, I sort of already asked on that earlier, but if there were multiple services that you could purchase from one provider, right, like temperature monitoring, energy management, or efficiency, like there would be multiple services, would you prefer to have it like you said cost is key, right? So probably bundled with like with the cost savings on it in versus separate pricing, or are people really cost sensitive and like to buy smaller packages?
No, I think you should look at the Costco model. And what do? We package things multiple, more than you need, and that drives the cost per unit down. And
Yep.
if I was in I would try to bring a package that covered multiple things and bring that down. When you start separating all these packages, naturally the cost per unit is going to be a little bit higher. But I think if you
Yep.
package things and get it down, that's your best bet.
Yeah. There's just some industries, and I've worked across a few industries before I took this job, where people are really sensitive to, for example, something that goes over 50,000. Then they have to get approval from corporate and whatever, right? So sometimes there's just hurdles of having too big packages that I was thinking about when I wrote down this question. So that doesn't.
I don't think those things are roadblocks to Costco, and I'm going to tell you why. I don't know who else you're dealing with, but Costco is such a different engine. And if you looked at an average Costco does $155 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's like 3 to 5 grocery stores.
Yeah, pretty damn big.
Yeah, and if you figured a Costco did $200 million a year, the packages divided by 13 periods doesn't scare us when you consider a Costco may be spending $5 million in wages a year. I mean, our numbers are that big. Our numbers are that big.
Yeah. Okay. So you're not scared by.
No.
Just noise expensive.
Well, just picture this. Okay, I just gave you a number, but maybe I shouldn't have. But there are a lot of businesses in the United States that don't do $5 million a year, and yet you have Costco's that spend $5 million a year in wages.
Yeah, only in one line of expenses, right? Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
So you're looking at a bigger business model, but you're also looking at a bigger business model that you have an opportunity to save, maybe 1% or 2 or 3, who knows? But even 1.001% of a $200 million Costco is money the manager cannot make for himself.
No.
If you use that term I just gave you, that will help you. You want to earn money for the warehouse manager that he cannot possibly earn for himself.
Mhm. Okay.
So he can't open the windows in a Costco. He can't go around tape all the freezer doors shut. He can't physically turn down the air in some of these areas. So this is the way that you help him be more profitable.
Yeah. Yeah, and would you even bother trying to go into more areas that look at like because cost is obviously the first thing I thought about as well. Some of the other things, also again thinking about other industries, that you look at is, for example, sales or customer experience, stuff like that. So, for example, you could track by the number of door openings,
Yep.
how many people are in the store at a point, and who's grabbing what sort of produce and stuff like that, right?
Yes.
Is that something where you say, okay, for the sales figures, we have a really good system anyways, or room to improve?
There's always room to improve in the sales. Again, it's all about. I mean, in the set, we do not. So I actually read some of your things, and there's nothing that tells us. We manually count everybody that comes in the door, so we know what the door count is coming through, but we count that for our service on the front end. So in other words, if 500 people come through the door in 30 minutes, we know in 45 minutes, 35 to 45 minutes, they're going to be at the front, and we know how many people it's going to be. But we don't have anything that tells us, people walk through your produce cooler, because traffic is important. We don't have anything that tells us how many people walked into our produce cooler. We don't have anything that tells us how many people walked into our produce cooler and didn't buy anything. We don't have anything that tells us how many people opened freezer doors and didn't buy anything. So I actually read that about you guys' stuff, and all those things help us really manage our business, And we don't, and that doesn't exist right now.
Okay, so you haven't heard of anybody trying to do that?
We have not tried that yet.
Okay. But in relation, just trying to get a feeling of urgency, right?
Yeah.
In relation to the other stuff we discussed, is it more like a nice to have thing, or also something we should seriously consider?
I think the first priority is anything that you can come up with that reduces weight, labor is great. And if you can do anything that reduces utilities, I think that's great.
Okay.
And here's another thing. If there's anything that you can do that reduces taxes, and what I mean by that is if you came up with a system and in cooperation with utility companies or with government that reduce the taxes because we are doing these things, that's another line that is very high at Costco that the manager can't control. So any tax benefit that we would get that reflect on the bottom line would be a plus.
Interesting. I have not thought about that one. Okay.
Okay, I get 2 bonuses.
Yeah. Does that apply to like insurances as well, or is insurance?
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but you're right. So there is a line on the P&L that covers both taxes and insurance, and they are uncontrollables. And to give you an idea, as a percent, taxes and insurance in some areas are as high as utilities, and that's why that's important.
Oh, okay.
So I gave you 2 secrets that you can use there.
Yep. No, but that's super good. But you don't have insurance that for example covers food loss or something, right? So the insurances would be building insurance and people and equipment, right? Or
Yes.
All right. Okay. But that's so if you have a food loss, you have to pay for it yourself, or
It's a complicated formula. It's like and I may misquote it. It's like the first $25,000 is uncovered, and the rest of we pay, and the rest we're covered, or they pay the first 20. It's a big number, I can tell you. I lost a whole building during. I lost a whole Costco during the hurricane that came through Houston.
Okay.
It was covered in 8 foot of water. I threw everything out. It was a huge loss.
Shoot. Okay. Dang. But that was insurance then. So you had a self-paid part, and then the insurance had the major part.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, because that's something, at least I understood, our operators are doing right now. They're taking responsibility of the food loss if we fail to save it, but that wouldn't apply for natural catastrophes and stuff.
No, it wouldn't. But you know what? That's a big deal that you do that, because some providers that we do business with now do not cover that. I have to argue with them.
Okay. So well, that's not so cool. Okay. Yep. But cool. No, I'm just trying to think if I forgot anything. Yeah. Okay. But since you said CapEx is not a thing you would do, if there would have to be sort of equipment or sort of retrofitted pieces to equipment, right, in order to make it technology feasible.
Let me address it. You're right. If you came in with equipment we will CapEx. Service we will not CapEx.
Okay.
Maybe if you came in and said, hey, we're going to bring this, yes, we would CapEx equipment over a 5-year period, but not services, not utilities, nothing like that.
Okay, so there could be a contract that says, here's your upfront cost for the equipment, and then here's your service fee.
Yeah, that would be a big deal, that if you brought in equipment, we would CapEx that over a period of 5 years, because that's an asset, but yet, telephone, electricity, gas, maintenance of the building, supplies, none of that we would ever CapEx.
Okay. And in terms of complexity, like if you were, for example, if we did a gain share contract, right? So we would say, okay, we bring down your NA cost by 10%, whatever, 1%. I don't know. It depends on what we would do, right? Would that something be that people are open to say, okay, out of that share of money that we save you, we take a 5% share? Or
I think
better to come up with a fixed price on the assumption that we know sort of what we will save?
I think you offer both. I think that's a great idea, because, it's like I told you, the people come in and sell you these systems, and then where's the ownership if the savings don't show up? And for instance, on that first scanning thing that we had, there was no partnership in our shrink loss. There was no, it was all operator error, blah, blah, blah. I think if you came in and said, hey, we're confident that we're going to deliver you, 2 to 3%, and we would like to take, hold on, I got to turn that off without hanging up on you. I got it. Okay. I think you could present both, or say Costco may tell you get down to your net and do that, but I think being a partner in it shows that you've got some skin in the game and you're confident.
Yeah.
But if you took a percentage, then that would get your cost down lower, your initial cost. You're expected to be paid on the back end. Yeah. I think that's a pretty good model, honestly.
Cool. I'm glad you like it.
Yeah, good.
I would have been upset if you didn't.
I would. I'll give you a bonus. I'll give you a bonus for that.
Thank you. All right. Now I'm just looking at the time, and I don't want to keep you any longer. Just wanted to give you a chance if you have any other ideas, directions that I should think about that we didn't yet discuss, or anything I need to be aware of in the retail context that's super special to the industry, where people are going to bite off my head if I do something. That would be really cool if you have.
No, I would have no problem. And so, I do this on the side, and I have no problem if you put something together. And so one of my most successful meetings is I met with somebody through one of these things, and I walked them through a Costco for 2 hours. And very helpful for them. I have no problem. I'm a freelancer. I'll be a part if you need me. I'll do that for you. And especially if you're getting ready to present something, you can contact me, and that's what I do now.
Yes, that would be really.
I have no problem giving you my email address if you want to email me and whatever. I mean, my rate, so that's what it is.
Yep. I do.
But, a lot of times, and you're Natalie, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, Natalie, talking about this is one thing, but if I walked with you and your team, I mean, I know Costco like the back of my hand, and then you get a chance to say, well, what do you think about this? And things come up during a walk like that, like I did this for plastics, people that are packaging thing in plastic. I thought it was going to take an hour. They took 2 hours, which is great. I don't have any problem. I flew and met them. They paid for everything. But it gives you, rather than a phone call, you get an opportunity to walk through, and if something comes to your mind, go, well, what do you think about this, or what do you think about that? But that's what I do now, and I do it for several companies, so it's no big deal.
Yeah. No, that would be really, really great. And if do you have my email, because I don't think I got your email.
I'll give you mine, and then you're free to contact me. So mine's real easy. It's Richie, RICHIE LW 26 @gmail.com. So it's Richie, my middle initial L, W my last name, 26 my birthday, @gmail.com.
Oh, LW. Okay.
LW.
Okay, I understood you. Okay. Okay, perfect. So Richie LW26 @gmail.com.
Yep.
Perfect. No, thank you so much.
Yep, I work for myself, so it isn't a conflict with anybody. And cut ties with Costco. My contract with them is over, so I'm free to discuss whatever I want.
Yeah, and that's also why I picked you, because I think that's the best way to also discuss ideas without trying to be in conflict with anybody that we might sell to.
Well, Natalie, I tell you that I used to get this all the time when I worked for Costco. I never responded to any of them.
Yeah, and I would hate to do that to anybody that's still in a position like that. So.
Yeah.
No.
So, but my contract is ended with Costco, and I fulfilled everything, and now I just do this because I love it. I always try to give you more than what you're looking for.
You did.
Okay.
I know.
All right. Well, let me know anything else you need.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you really, really much. And I'll try to come up with some service packages, and I'll reach out if that would be great to discuss.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Well,
yeah.
Thanks for the call.
Have a great rest of your day.
I will. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.